Hello everyone and welcome back to Wonderland. If you're new here, my name is Nora, and today I'm going to be diving into the differences between the two American Disney resorts, Disneyland Resort in California and Walt Disney World Resort in Orlando, Florida. And just before we get started, I just wanted to say that this video is not a competitive debate. This is a discussion on the differences between the two parks and why people would want to go to each one. It's also an opportunity for people to learn about each of the different parks and which is best for them. So let's get into it. Alright, so to start off, I'm just going to give some very basic information on each of the parks, and we're going to start with our oldest of the two, Disneyland. Before I start talking about all of the information, if I'm looking off to the left here, it's because I have some notes that I've printed off because this information is way too much for me to memorize and remember. After Walt Disney and his company had found success in animation, Walt had wanted to create a theme park that both adults and children could enjoy, and the name was originally supposed to be called Mickey Mouse Park. Obviously, that name didn't stick. On July 17, 1955, Disneyland was finally opened after a lot of anticipation and work by the Walt Disney Company. The park is known as the happiest place on Earth, with almost 30 million people visiting both Disneyland and California Adventure annually. Disneyland has 9 lands, most of which are also located in Magic Kingdom and Walt Disney World. I'm just going to give a hopefully brief summary of each land. Alright, so first we have Main Street, USA, which features shops and restaurants and is inspired by Walt Disney's hometown, Marceline, Missouri. This area is where you first walk in upon entering the front gates. Then there's Frontierland, which is a Western-inspired area that includes Big Thunder Mountain Railroad, which is the most noticeable feature of the land. Then there's Adventureland, which includes the Enchanted Tiki Room and Indiana Jones, the Temple of the Forbidden Eye, one of the best rides at Disneyland in my opinion. Adventureland has of jungle and tropical feel, and this is where you can find the popular treat Dole Whip. Next is Fantasyland, which features all of the classic fairy tale inspired rides like Snow White's Enchanted Wish, Alice in Wonderland, Peter Pan's Flight, It's a Small World, and several others. Fantasyland is full of magical rides and restaurants, and also where you can find a Bibbidi Bobbidi Boutique. There's also Tomorrowland, which is a retro future inspired area with a lot of space related rides like Buzz's Astro Blasters and Astro Orbiter, and of course Space Mountain as its crowning jewel. Hello, editing me. I realized I completely failed to mention the amazing Matterhorn in Disneyland. It's one of my favorite rides. I can't believe I forgot that. It is a really, really great ride. I know a lot of people really hate it because of how rickety it is, but it's really great, and that's also a really big part of what makes Disneyland Disneyland. Next, there's Bayou Country, which was originally Bear Country and then Critter Country. Features the more recently introduced Tiana's Bayou Adventure and the adorable Pooh Corner with the Many Adventures of Winnie the Pooh ride. Next, there's New Orleans Square, which is actually not a square but an oddly shaped pentagon. And area is inspired by the 19th century New Orleans and includes the spooky haunted mansion and, of course, the Pirates of the Caribbean. This area also features some delicious restaurants and beautiful architecture. Next, Toontown is a cartoon land that takes inspiration from the 1930s cartoons and the movie Who Framed Roger Rabbit. Toontown features the homes of Mickey, Minnie, Donald's boat, and Goofy's playground, with the biggest attraction being Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway, which was added in 2023. Finally, we have Star Wars Galaxy's Edge. This land was added in 2019 and is obviously Star Wars themed, but it's specifically in the sequel trilogy timeline. This land features 2 rides, Millennium Falcon, Smuggler's Run, and Rise of the Resistance, which is a really popular ride. Okay, so those are all of the Disneyland lands. In addition to Disneyland Park, there's also California Adventure. This opened February 8th, 2001, and the park is dedicated to California, but I think they've kind of started to shift away from that with the introduction of Pixar Pier instead of Paradise Pier, changing the roller coaster California Screamin' to the Incredicoaster. They also have recently added San Francisco Square, a Big Hero 6 themed area. They also have Avengers Campus, which was changed from Bugs Land in 2021. Rip Bugs Land, we miss you. Which rethemed the Tower of Terror to Guardians of the Galaxy Mission Breakout. Avengers Campus also has Web Slingers, which is a popular Spider-Man ride. California Adventure also features Cars Land, which is filled with rides, shops, and restaurants, which is obviously themed to the 2006 Pixar movie, Cars. Grizzly Peak, Hollywoodland, and Buena Vista Street are also different areas of the park that have less noticeable theming but are still essential parts to what make California Adventure. Okay, so that was a lot of information about Disneyland, so let's pivot to Disney World. Alright, so Walt Disney World was opened on October 1st, 1971. Walt Disney had wanted to create this park because Disneyland didn't have enough space to expand. Walt Disney World is referred to as the most magical place on Earth, with almost 50 million visitors every single year. There are 4 different parks in Disney World, and we're going to start with the summary of Epcot. Epcot was actually originally supposed to be a new style of living, like a small community. Its name stands for Experimental Prototype Community of Tomorrow. Walt had designed this project, but he died during its production, unfortunately. And the living style wasn't incorporated into the final version of the park, which was opened in 1982. Epcot's landmark is Spaceship Earth, which introduces the innovation and technological themes. The most notable part of the park is the World Showcase, which features pavilions themed as 11 different countries, including Canada, UK, America, France, Morocco, Japan, Italy, Germany, Mexico, Norway, and China. Each country has different shops, restaurants, and attractions, each creating an immersive cultural experience. Epcot also features 3 areas: World Celebration, which includes Spaceship Earth, Imagination, also known as Journey into Imagination, and Odyssey. World Discovery includes Guardians of the Galaxy Cosmic Rewind, which is a newer addition to the park, Mission Space, and Test Track. And lastly, there is World Nature, which has The Seas with Nemo and Friends, Journey of Water inspired by Moana, and The Land, which includes Soarin' and Living with the Land. Epcot is also known to feature festivals like the Flower and Garden Festival and the International Food and Wine Festival, among others. Next up is Hollywood Studios, which is originally called Disney's MGM Studios, and it was opened in 1989 with the giant sorcerer Mickey hat serving as its icon until 2015, when it was removed. Now the Hollywood Tower Hotel, or the Tower of Terror, serves as its landmark. Hollywood Boulevard, inspired by a real street by the same name, is the first area you see upon entering the park, which features Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway, previously the Great Movie Ride. There's also Echo Lake that features a few different shows and sites. Grand Avenue, an area that became almost completely Muppet themed, featuring Muppet Vision 3D and the Muppet Courtyard, but that area has now been closed for the construction of the new Monsters, Inc. ride. A large area of Hollywood Studios is dedicated to Star Wars Galaxy's Edge, which is basically exactly the same as Disneyland. There's also Toy Story Land, which features multiple rides like Toy Story Mania and Slinky Dog Dash, with restaurants and fun Toy Story theming and decorations. Another area is Animation Courtyard, which features a lot of animation and studio theming, and it has The Little Mermaid, a musical adventure. Finally, Sunset Boulevard includes the Hollywood Tower of Terror, which houses the Twilight Zone Tower of Terror and Rock and Roller Coaster featuring Aerosmith, which is unfortunately soon to close. This area also has 2 outdoor amphitheaters and 1 indoor theater with the shows Beauty and the Beast live on stage, Fantasmic, and Disney Villains Unfairly Ever After. Next, we have Animal Kingdom, which opened in 1998, making the final park added to Walt Disney World. This park is centralized around animals and nature, featuring a giant tree called the Tree of Life as its landmark. Discovery Island is the center of the park, which was originally called Safari Village. It serves as the connecting area for each section of the park. The most unique and breathtaking area of Animal Kingdom is Pandora, the World of Avatar. This immersive area features rides like Flight of Passage and Na'vi River Journey. This area is themed after James Cameron's film Avatar, with bioluminescent plants and other otherworldly feel. There is also Africa, which is based off of villages found in Kenya and Uganda. The main attraction is Kilimanjaro Safari, where you can see all of the animals and wildlife in Animal Kingdom on a guided tour. Africa also includes Gorilla Falls Exploration Trail. Rafiki's Planet Watch is connected to Africa and includes Conservation Station and Affection Section, which is a petting zoo. Asia is our next section of the park, and its main focal point is the thrill coaster Expedition Everest, which goes through a Himalayan mountain. This area is inspired by the countries Cambodia, India, Indonesia, Mongolia, Nepal, Thailand, and Tibet, China. This area also includes Kali River Rapids, Feathered Friends in Flight, and the Maharaja Jungle Trek. I don't know how to pronounce that. Sorry, I probably butchered it. Finally, Animal Kingdom includes Dinoland USA, which is very soon to close, which features the thrill ride Dinosaur, inspired by the film of the same name. Fun fact about Dinosaur, if you've ridden Indiana Jones in Adventureland in Disneyland, and you've also ridden Dinosaur, I'm sure you've noticed, they have a very similar track sequence, and that's because when they were building Dinosaur, they recycled and reused a lot of the aspects that they used for Indiana Jones, which is pretty cool. And that's why they're turning it into an Indiana Jones ride, because it's already really similar. Our final park in Walt Disney World Resort is, of course, Magic Kingdom. Magic Kingdom was the first to open, featuring the beautiful Cinderella's castle as its icon. Magic Kingdom includes most of the same lands as Disneyland Park, excluding Star Wars, Toontown, New Orleans Square, and Bayou Country. However, unlike Disneyland, Magic Kingdom has Liberty Square. Main Street USA is basically the same as Disneyland. Liberty Square features Haunted Mansion, but instead of being the New Orleans inspired, it's instead a colonial style building. Liberty Square includes restaurants like Sleepy Hollow Refreshments, inspired by the movie The Adventures of Ichabod and Mr. Toad, Liberty Square Market, and Columbia Harbor House. The Hall of Presidents is also located here. Adventureland is missing Indiana Jones, but adds in the magic carpets of Aladdin. Frontierland now adopts Tiana's Bayou Adventure and an animatronic show, the Country Bear Musical Jamboree. Fantasyland doesn't include a few rides from Disneyland, but adds in Seven Dwarfs Mine Train and the Be Our Guest restaurant. Magic Kingdom also has a subsection of Fantasyland that Disneyland doesn't, which is Storybook Circus. This area includes Dumbo the Flying Elephant, the Barnstormer, and a large store called Big Top Souvenirs. Alright, now that we've covered everything that you need to know about these parks, let's dive into the major differences. So first of all, let's talk about location. Disneyland is located in Southern California in Anaheim, and Disney World is located in hot and humid Orlando, Florida. During the summer months, I think Disneyland might be the better option because it's not humid, it's just hot. But while in the summer months, Disney World might be your better option because it's slightly warmer than the atmosphere in California. And it might just feel a little less freezing. Next are hotels. Walt Disney World is known for having a very long list of hotels and resorts, and there are over 25 of them. While having a lot of resorts, they are spread out across the property, just like the parks, so getting from one resort to one park might be a challenge, but there are multiple options for transportation, like the Skyliner, monorail, buses, and even boats that are provided for guests to use to get themselves around. Unlike Disney World, Disneyland only has 3 resorts: the Pixar Place Hotel, Disneyland Hotel, and the Grand Californian. All 3 are very close to the parks and are right outside of downtown Disney, easily within walking distance. Now let's talk overall feel. In my personal opinion, I really like the vibe of Disneyland more than Disney World, and I think Disneyland has more of like a homey feel with a classic touch of nostalgia and kind of more of like a cutesy feel. It might be my bias talking because I grew up going to Disneyland because I was a lot closer to California than Florida, but I think Disneyland has a more humble but still magical feel. Disney World, on the other hand, has a very big presence, like big castle, lots of parks, lots of hotels, lots of things to see and do. I feel it has a major wow factor and kind of in-your-face magic effects, but it makes it feel more of like an immersive show rather than a cute little village, like how Disneyland feels. Alright, let's talk characters. So there's a very different culture with the characters, because in Disneyland they can roam. There are many different characters that roam around certain areas of the parks, stopping and taking pictures with people, but they aren't designated to one spot. Not that all of the characters are roaming there, but there are still quite a few. Compared to Disney World, on the other hand, the characters only have designated meet and greet spots, and I've heard that crowds tend to be a little less behaved when the characters are walking by, and they kind of swarm them compared to Disneyland, where the people are normally more patient and are less trying to get in the character's personal space. My last point is difference of rides. I feel like this is something that is discussed a lot. While Disney World obviously has many more rides because there's more parks, I personally think that Disneyland's ride quality is better. Now, don't get me wrong, don't hate me. I know that a lot of Disneyland's rides are very rickety because they're really old. Like Peter Pan's Flight, for example, is very it's kind of a rough ride because it's old. I'm not talking about like the smoothness of the tracks. I'm talking just like that quality, like the immersive quality of the ride. I personally think that at least on the rides that they have in both parks, Disneyland is better. If you ride Pirates of the Caribbean in Disneyland and then also in Disney World, I think it's pretty obvious to see that the one in Disneyland is better, and I think it's because it was the original model for the ride. I don't really know. But I think that most people that have been to both parks agree that for the shared rides, Disneyland's are just better. But while Disneyland might have better ride comparisons, Disney World has quite a few rides that Disneyland does not have that are really amazing. Stuff like Tower of Terror, which they no longer have in Disneyland, Seven Dwarfs Mine Train, and of course the incredible Avatar Flight of Passage, which is like the coolest ride ever. Like my dad, who hates Disney, well, he doesn't hate it, but like he doesn't like it. He loves that ride. Everybody can agree that that ride is really incredible. And all of these rides are fan favorites and are really good rides with really immersive features that Disneyland just can't really compete with. So overall, which park is better? In my extremely biased opinion, I have to say Disneyland because that's where I grew up going. I've been there so many more times than Disney World, and it just holds a really special place in my heart. For some people, they're looking for a really big vacation with multiple parks and lots of fun activities and rides and food, and they want that big wow factor, so Disney World would be their choice. And Disney World is overall a more popular vacation spot because it's so much bigger. But for some others, like me, Disneyland might appeal more because they want the homey, classic, smaller scale, simple vacation. All in all, I think it depends on the person, and both parks are incredible vacation spots that have so much to offer. Alright, so I think that just about wraps up the video. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really appreciate you being here. Please don't forget to like and subscribe and comment down below which park is your favorite and why. I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye!